The countdown.
30.
29.
20.
27.
26.
25.
24.
23.
22.
21.
20 seconds.
19.
18. 17.
16.
15.
14.
13.
12.
11. 10.
9.
8.
7.
6.
5.
4. 3.
2.
1. 0.
Ready? All right.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Well, greetings and salutations, my friends. Thank you all out there in YouTube land. And it's a great chance to get together. Mags will be here any moment. She'll be joining us for Pops Talk. It's awesome to have great folks back with us again. We'll talk about some different stories that are going on. But you guys that are out there is what makes this happen. And we can't thank you enough. And right here next to me is Brandon, the anime guy. My friend, how are you doing?
I am doing well, Pops. I've just been binging while working today, so it's been a good day. I've primarily been off of YouTube today, so.
All right. Well, it's been a great experience. If you have any love of anime or anything down that arena, questions, comments on his videos are always welcome and answered. I've learned so much, and I'm still trying to get my feet wet. It's not been a genre that I'm really that connected to, so I will not pretend. But I'm learning and I'm enjoying more and more each time. So tonight we'll kind of dabble with some stories. I kind of want to touch on Orville first and foremost because it's really kind of landed with just a big boom in the pop culture sphere here on YouTube as well. And what it made me really think about was how away from the comedy it's gotten. And then I thought about comedies in general, and it kind of really struck me about how few and far between comedies are these days that I enjoy or I think are decent. So anyway, the other stories we'll talk about is maybe just some of the crazy projects and story where I don't know about you, Brandon, but sometimes I feel like I'm being punked or trolled. It's like some of these stories, I'm like, what are they making? What are they doing? What, really? So, hail to Chris Persia. He is the wrench. He's the beast mod. He really is. Chris has just done such a great job for me and helped me and been supportive so much. And I appreciate him coming in tonight. So, Brandon, for the show, you talked about watching Orville as well, being all caught up, and another show drops tonight. But talk a little bit about your thoughts on season 3. Have you watched it all along, or is it something you've kind of gotten caught up on, that kind of thing?
I've been watching Orville since it first dropped back, was it 2017? So I've been there since the beginning. It really is, in my estimation, the best show, at least a Western IP on television. It's, great sci-fi. It's got great writing. Now we've got even better special effects. It's not like the special effects were bad to start with, but they were, TV level, TV budget. But they've taken that up and turned it up to 11, and it looks gorgeous. Great captain, great crew. They get along, but they're not afraid to go at each other when needed. Him with Mercer and his buddy Malloy. Mercer is not afraid to listen to him, both as a friend and also as a crewmate, but also somebody that's under his command. That's what makes the dynamics of all this really works out very well. And so far for this season, I loved the way that it started. It's starting on that note, the elephant in the room per se. What the Isaac question? What to do with Isaac? I thought it was a good way to start, but I know that there are a few people out there that do prefer the comedy side of this show more, and they were a little butthurt about it. But even being a little butthurt, I still think that those that preferred the comedy side are coming around to the fact that, yes, it was good that they got that done and out of the way. Now they can go do all the exploring. And, the second episode, it was out of my Eldritch nightmares. Let's just put it that way. It really was good. It was a great episode. And the one tonight, it's going to go on to the weird side of the science fiction genre. So, yeah, I'm really impressed with how dynamic the story range has been. And I think it's just going to continue.
Well, I mean, I've heard all the stories about Seth MacFarlane pitching and then being rejected for his Star Trek plan. This is basically Star Trek. It's a Star Trek that they can't make. We haven't had decent Star Trek. I've given up on Star Trek since the Abrams trilogy. I haven't watched any of the new stuff, and I'm glad I haven't because I haven't been as scarred as most of the other fans that are out there. And I will tell you, I was very reluctant. I'm not a big Seth MacFarlane fan. My wife really can't stand him. Don't care for a lot of the humor. I think I've been through like the Family Guy stuff and American Dad and all those different things that he's done over the years. I'm kind of like, okay. And the show was pitched back in 2017 to me. It come across as a lot of his humor. Now, I don't know if that was true or not, just the way they did their commercials and their branding. Yeah. And I just kind of stayed away because I wasn't into it. And then I've kind of been coerced, and certain people that won't be named that aren't here tonight, like PJ, just happened to kind of nudge me in the right direction. I started binging, and I have totally just been blown away about how good the show is. So let me bring in the angel. Let's bring her in. She's the princess. How are you, Mags?
Hi guys. Sorry.
You're fine. Mags is here. MAGITEK Mags is just an incredible YouTube personality who's finally dabbling with some of her own stuff, and we couldn't be more excited. And I'm so blessed that she would come back and spend another night with me talking pop stuff. So it's so awesome that you're here, Mags. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I do apologize. I was trying to play NASCAR on the highway to get here. So
well, I trust me. I know and I understand. I'm also just like racing around after work, scarfing down a meal so I can have something in me to keep me going.
Yes.
It's shenanigans central when you're trying to run day jobs and be a YouTuber on the side. So. Yeah. I was explaining how I didn't get into Orville, and now that I've binged it, and I don't want to do this tonight, but I almost feel like I could do a dive deep on single episodes about the social political stuff that you probably couldn't even do today. Like even 2017, there's transgender topics, circumcision topics, all male stuff. There's racism. There are so many topics that are so inflammatory by today's standards. This show is sort of like a underrated gem. Like I'm just blown away at how good. So for someone who's just binged it literally in the last few weeks, it's just been crazy. And I will see. I agree with what Brandon was saying about the scope of the budget and the effects of season 3 and how it looks is just been phenomenal. So, Max, talk about your journey through Orville. Were you watching from the get go, or kind of how did you come into all this, and where are you at on your love of the fandom of Orville?
Well, I actually kind of, I've been hearing about the Orville, and I've seen it through some of the group chats I'm in. I've seen it on Twitter. I mean, we've seen it from PJ, the Oracle Nation, and some of his Twitter posts and everything. And you hear it from word of mouth, and that's a very powerful tool as far as a PR perspective is concerned, because it's not forceful promotion; it's actually passionate promotion. And so I was thinking, you know what, let me go ahead and jump into the first episode of this season, just to kind of get my dive in head first and in waters that I've never swam before. And I actually really enjoyed that episode, even without any context or understanding behind it all. I actually really enjoyed that episode, and it really had a lot of Star Trek influence, and I know I can see why people say that that's the case. Mm-hmm. So I am really excited that when I finally do sit down and binge the entire series and actually enjoy it from the first episode to get to season 3, I can't wait to actually access and have that kind of journey that everyone else has had over the years. So I'm looking forward to really plunging myself into the world. I mean, one of the biggest things that I noticed even in season 3 episode 1, is that the world building around the ships, going out on, the ship, it's the ships themselves, and maintenance work, and the galaxy, and the look of the ship. It's just so detailed. And I mean, why can't we have that in Star Wars or Star Trek, please? I don't want horses on my starships. I want actually feel like this is a world to be immersed in. And that's what I felt in that episode. So I can't wait to actually give this show proper, how do I put it? Proper attention, just so I could sit down and actually thoroughly enjoy it without distraction. So
binge with purpose.
Yes, exactly.
Hail the Gap Stargate. Brandon, I think she touched on like the philosophy of good writing was you would create characters and they would have a book, a Bible, if you will, of the characters and the rules and all this framework. And even though there's so many parallels to Star Trek, TNG, and all this kind of stuff, you can see they're so faithful to their lore and then continuing to expand it like step by step. And they never let characters, I call it going cold as a writer. Like if you were to write a TV series, and back in the day, they would write 23 episodes, right? You can't ignore a character's arc for more than about 2 or 3 episodes. Otherwise, the audience kind of loses interest. They just become a character they don't care about anymore. This show does so good of like, well, we spent the whole last episode on Bordas. Now we're going to circle back around and we're going to get on to something that has to do with Kelly. Now we're going to circle back around. We'll get on to something that has to do with Isaac. We're going to bring in this character subplot with the doctor. It was like, this show is so underrated compared to anything I've seen. I don't even know. I mean, The Offer that is on Paramount, that's a different topic, derail my brain, how they even ended up on Paramount. But I couldn't even think of like modern TV that this could compare to. Brandon, talk about, because you've watched since the beginning, has there been a lot of conversation about how they have managed to stay faithful and kind of have this great controlled yet expanding universe that they've built?
In my opinion, it all revolves around Seth MacFarlane. The fact that he is so powerful within the 20th Century Fox television studio group. He's produced shows for them for years, and he has that clout built in that, basically if he does something, A, he does it wholeheartedly, B, he's going to want to do it his way. Now, my understanding, and I really wish PJ was here because he probably knows more about this than I do, but my understanding was when Seth MacFarlane pitched this, that's exactly right. He wanted to do Star Trek. He wanted to have this be a TNG type of show. The Fox executives wanted it to be Family Guy in space with all the, the fart and dick jokes and the stupid shit like that, which I apologize, but really there a lot of MacFarlane's humor is stupid, but that's his shtick. It works for the comedy side, or at least it used to work on the Family Guy side. I don't think it's as funny as it used to be, but that's a whole separate ball of wax. So he compromised to a point. It started off as like a Star Trek parody type of show, but after those first few episodes, the more serious nature of it kicked in while still maintaining some of the humor, and that's exactly what that first season is it's trying to find that balance. And in the second season, with the exception of the Bordas and the addiction episode, it hits that stride. Yeah. And going further into this, I do think we are going to get some more lighthearted comedic parts in it, but we're not going to have the, as I said, the fart and the dick jokes or that type of language. They've changed the language up a little bit. The swearing has gone down, but the words they use are the ones you can't use on regular TV. But
see,
really,
they have ties to Earth, so sometimes using our jugular profanity works well. I'm very critical of Star Wars that with Disney Star Wars, they started bringing in, English curse words. Like in Force Awakens, he uses damn and other things. In this latest episode, Obi-Wan, they refer to an actual ladder. They don't have a word for a ladder. They don't have little things like that. I know it sounds nitpicky, but again, and Stargate said it right. There's a Bible, like a TV series Bible or something like that. And hail to Ironcaster, who popped in while we were listening to that. And I think Brandon is so spot on with his analysis of season 1 and 2 and kind of the way it's evolved. And Mags, I'm pretty clear. You have it. So you didn't really watch 1 and 2. You kind of jumped in at 3, correct?
Yes, I was the crazy one. So
Oh, you're
I jumped,
fine.
I jumped right in just to, maybe I just wanted to do something completely different where I had no context because I wanted to test objectivity in such a way from my perspective.
Sure.
And honestly, I can see why people love this show and love talking about this show
Yeah, I agree.
just by one episode without context. So I wanted to really come in a very objective position without understanding of it. So just
Cool.
that's a really good thing.
Yeah, War Monkeys here as well. And Gap points out, I think very accurately, that Tom Castellano is with Seth to keep everything in line with continuity.
Yes.
That's very, very true. Ironcaster's putting our links here for us, so the Mocklins, the Klingons, very clearly, right? And you have sort of Isaac, he's very much the Data character, this fact-driven, stoic, robotic thing. Christian Fandom's here. Hey, brother, how you doing? Hopefully you're doing all right. So I think I got all the chat caught. Oh, boy, it's flying by.
As far as the
Go ahead.
As far as the Mocklins go, they are Klingon-esque in my thought process only one way, and that's the whole thing dealing with war. Otherwise, they are polar opposites. I don't think of the Mocklins having that type of honor system like the Klingons do, and obviously with the Mocklins supposedly being a single-sex race, which that gets blown out of the water in the first season and the second season. They're a lot more complex of a race compared to others, and I like Bordas. I think he is funny, and he has grown quite a bit. He was very, let's say, Mocklin-like to start with, but now he's relaxed a bit. Even though when the doctor says, prepare to get a cold, what's the worst that could happen? The sniffles. I am prepared. He just has that stoic nature of his makes for comedic gold and comedic timing.
Right. Max,
So-
I will apologize in advance if I make references to things in season 1 or 2 that might spoil something for you. I'll try to behave if I can, but
No,
my
it's
brain
okay. It's
throws
okay.
things up. So, okay.
It's okay, because basically for me, in my perspective, just FYI on spoilers, just because you can spoil something, it's not going to take it away from me because I'm going to experience it from my perspective. So,
That's right.
And I think you will because the show is so well written. I think the show is so good. And Ironcaster is kind of alluding to this, right? He says there's nothing wrong with jumping into a show. It's a merit of quality writing that can hook a person who hasn't been there from the beginning. That is
exactly
the home run in this show. Like you were hooked on season 3, episode 1, even though you weren't on the journey along the way to get some of the other little pieces. You want to immediately go back and start watching more. This season was really weaving beautiful tapestry in the episodes. Okay.
Yeah.
Says, and the Mocklins are same audience appeal as the Klingons were in TNG. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
And Troy Pacelli dropped in. Hey, Troy, how are you doing, my friend? The Krill work
Troy.
more as Klingon analogs of war adversaries than the Mythos religious belief system. Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The Krill definitely view everything through the lens of their religious zealotry, and make no mistake, they're zealots. Their whole thing is based upon zealotry, and that is a Seth MacFarlane thing. Since he's an atheist, he doesn't particularly care for the dogmas that are out there. So
Sure,
why not have ones that are extreme?
Right. Christian Fan, we are going to have to agree to disagree. I was telling Brandon before we even started, I will have to do another video. I couldn't believe there's so many contradictions in this show. I just can't do it. So Bordas plays the comic straight man, and Peter Macon nails it. Absolutely.
Yes,
I
he
actually
does.
had to spend some time looking at the guy and see what else he's done. And yes, this was a fantastic moment with the mustache. It was a freaking great episode.
What is that thing on your lip?
That's the kind of comedy, I think, Mags, when you go back, and I will say this as someone who didn't really care for Seth MacFarlane, even though there's a lot of comedy, and even though, like what Brandon, you were saying about, he's an atheist, there's some religious overtones at times, he's taking jabs at, but he's taking a jab at like being a zealot, not being religious. He's not mocking anyone, and he's also not saying Christian. He's also not saying, slavery in the 1860s, and he's not saying things that are so overwrought and direct right with our world. He's making metaphors and allegories. Max, how much of that did you pick up on just the first episode?
I mean, I didn't really notice it as much because we can all be zealots in our own ideology individually. It doesn't have
True.
to be based on religion or politics or anything. I mean, people can be zealot. I mean, I don't want to say this in an ugly way, but they're, what we call as shills. That's a zealot. So basically somebody who can't see beyond their own blinders, and that it's okay to address that. We have to be addressing our own biases in our each individual lives, and that's a good challenge. That's a good way to challenge you, and without having to directly say what that is, letting the audience actually think for themselves rather than spelling it out for you. That's good writing. That's subtlety. Subtlety is an art form that Hollywood has missed and lacked over a while. Instead, they like to tell you how it is or what it is, instead of actually challenging you to actually think introspectively on it. So, and I think it's beautifully done. When I didn't quite notice it, but I enjoyed it for for the show itself, or at least the episode. And it didn't do me harm. It helped me think. And thinking is a good thing, by the way, people.
Absolutely. And I think that obviously there's different episodes along the way, and I could do a deep dive in some of the socio-political stuff
Right.
on those particular episodes, because there's certain episodes that get into it, and you're getting some of the jokes, like the mustache joke. Was a great episode. There's a cigarette chain smoking episode with poor Bordis. There's a practical joke episode where Isaac and Malloy are kind of trying to teach Isaac what a practical joke is. It goes awry. But these are little subplots, little side stories that don't derail from the overall story. Even if that's actually a mission, they work it all in so beautifully. And Chris Persia, beast mode. Look at that. Hashtag bring back the mustache. It's so freaking great. And yeah, Troy, we touched on it a little bit, but he's basically pointing out how Seth is such a big Trek fan. He had once done a fan film, had a cameo in DS9 episode, and then he also become a regular on Enterprise. And War Monkeys confirm, yes, all fan film is great. Seeing him do that, pure love. Yeah, it is. Brandon, do you have we don't want to spoil too much for Max, but do you have a favorite episode? You have like a 1 or 2 or 3 that you're like, these are the really top ones. I will say I actually am like, so, obviously I've been transparent about my history of being very, spending years writing and playing in the website and political game and data analysis. I'm a very religious person and covering a lot of that kind of stuff. And so for me, a lot of these episodes to me are the ones that challenge all of that. Like, I love all of that. That stuff is so good. This is old school TOS and TNG, where you get into, should what should the Mocklins do with the baby? Should we, how do we handle, intervening in this culture or not? Like, it's like war intervention or not? Is it right we think we're right, but are we right? Like, should we be doing this? Like, there's so many episodes, and I'm actually shocked. The first 2 seasons, you got 12 and then 14, I believe. So you're talking like 26 episodes. It would be hard to whittle down 1 or 2 or 3, but I thought I'd put the pressure on you, bro. That's what I could do.
Well, let's see here. Well, let me do it this way. From season 1, I would have to say my 2 favorites. I would have to say the first one is Majority Rule, and the second one would be Mad Idolatry. Now, for Majority Rule, when you think about governance systems, the one thing that typically never works is true direct democracy. Well, what happens if you have a planet that's exactly what it is, and it's all based upon the popularity of something because of the internet, because of social medias, where everybody has more or less a social credit score. You get up votes, you get into more places. You get down votes, you could eventually be killed because you're down voted. It's way the hell out there, but it's so very true on a lot of things as far as how our current society is trending towards. I thought it was a very interesting study.
That in other countries, right? Doesn't China have a credit score system?
Yeah.
And things like that. And I know there's like Black Mirror episodes. So the premise is, Mags, that basically they live on this up and down voting credit score thing. and oh man, what's the character? Well, John, right? John.
Yeah.
He gets
Yeah, he
himself.
does something very
he did
stupid.
something obnoxious and stupid. So now he's basically
Okay.
going to get. He's going to basically get. He could potentially get the death penalty if the people out there decide that he's just not worthy of, keeping. So it was
Okay.
it was a fascinating concept of just the social pressures change in the episode, which makes it beautiful because there's a character that kind of likes him and it's like gives it a little positive, but then later finds out he did this. Like, oh no, I would negative now. It's like, wow, this is really just like real life.
Yeah,
Everything
this
can
is
just
like
change
social
on a
media.
dime. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. That is very much like social media today.
Yeah.
And that's a really interesting take of, putting something in a show being subtle, by the way, of how you don't need real life situations, but you can have a relatively similar situation possibly in this type of world because of the way that it's been built. And you can take a look at that and challenge your way of thinking in your own reality here, outside the show, and say, this is wrong. What's going on social media? And it's a good way to have a teachable lesson without being overbearing.
Yeah, I thought it was even better writing than the Black Mirror episode because Black Mirror was a lot more on point with like cell phone use and stuff like this was a lot more metaphorical as like a whole global way of governance. And I think War Monkey agrees with you, Brandon. That's one of his top favorites. So what's your other favorite, man? What else do you like in season 1? What's the name of the other one? I'm sorry. I don't know the names of the episode as well as I do the context. I binge quickly. I had to keep moving, man. So I don't know the names as well.
Well, the last episode of the season was called Mad Idolatry. Basically, a planet that disappears and reappears every so often, and they happen upon the planet. It's not there. It shows up. They go down on the surface to see what's going on. One of the people spots them, so it breaks their breaks the rules for first contact, things like that. The kid gets hurt. Kelly heals the kid or mends the wound, and a religion is started based upon that. And
they worship Kelly. Yep.
Yeah, and they worship Kelly, and they try to fix it, and things just keep getting worse until
worse.
about the fourth time after they had Isaac go there to try and tell them no, she's just a person. They figured it out themselves and other things. It's an interesting take on that, but it also shows what happens if you are a more advanced civilization, putting your nose in places where you should not have put your nose to begin with, breaking the rules, the consequences of breaking the rules. Fortunately, with this one, because of the fact that the planet jumps ahead 700 years every time it reappears, it works itself out within the normal space. But had it not, it would have been bad. And of course, Mercer put himself on the line for her, and the Admiral was not happy with either of them.
Ironcaster talks about a girl. That's the one that I was referring to about the Mocklins and the female characters are not great stuff there. I like mistakes, corrections, and nothing on Earth except fishes, which I love that one because when the name of the episode popped up, I was like, oh, how are they going to work this in? So that was really good. So yeah, some great stuff. Stephen Ransom popping in. Hey, buddy. Awesome. Thanks you for coming in here. Film Threat was making him mad, evidently. So I'm not quite sure what they were talking about over there. We'll have to get caught up on that at some point. But yeah, so War Monkey completely agrees and says those are my exact two favorites as well. So before we kind of leave Orville a little bit, Mags, I want to get back to this first episode where, because you didn't have context, I think for me, because if I had any least favorites, it was the very end of season 2 where you have like some time travel stuff and it gets real weird. And episode 1 of season 3 was kind of cleaning some of that up. But I think what was heavy was kind of what Brandon, I think you were saying earlier about like, what are we going to do with Isaac? What's our context with Isaac? And the home run for me is, Max, didn't you feel like you love this character and he's emoting, but he has he's just two lights. He doesn't even have eyes. He has two lights for eyes. But the mannerism stuff is it's brilliantly done.
And of course, coming in without any context, I actually connect with the character, even though he couldn't emote. Because I don't know how to describe it, but it's like I could see his emotions without seeing them. And it's strange where it's not really strange. It's really well done how a writer can write a character and have at least at least one person have that connection with a character who can't even show emotions. That's good, right? That's at least good writing in my book, because and at the end of the day, people are going to connect to certain characters differently, but it's, the way he cocks his head, or the way he walks, or even some of the particular words that he uses, and the angle, but also it's also the camera work and the way that the other characters around him, they draw each other out in terms of their character development. And I actually was sad that Isaac did what he did, and he doesn't even emote, but it's like the way they presented it in such a way. And for spoilers who haven't seen that episode yet, he self deletes himself because he thought that was efficiently the best way to make everybody happy. But yet he came to that conclusion in a different manner, but a conclusion that still gave the same results, which, the audience felt terrible. So it's really well done. So.
Yeah, Ironcaster, I think, points it out beautifully, is that Isaac presents something of a blank template we can all easily insert ourselves and really feel for him. I couldn't agree more. And I also think with what you're saying, Mags, because Steve Ransom's pointing out how emotional R2-D2 can be with all of its beeps and twirls and lights and whatever, where we get so much less of that with Isaac. But what was, I think, brilliant was the humans outdo Isaac at his own logic. Like when the scene with the doctor, and she's like, well, no, but you haven't thought about this. And she sort of kind of gives you this big, spoilery, like, oh, by the way, you didn't think about that. I thought it was really, really good. So, because the emotions that Isaac portrays is very subtle, like you were saying, Max, like the way the hands and fingers move, arm levels, tilting of the shoulders, head, those kinds of things. And even just the type of phrasing that he uses just changes that. Oh, wait, let's see. Chris Persia says, I disagree that Isaac does emote, just not facially oppressed verbally, but in the spirit of old silent era acting, he emotes physically. Yeah. Okay.
That's a good point. I like that.
That's what I'm trying to get at, I guess. So awesome. Well, Mr. Dr. Professor showed up. So, hey, there he is. Yeah.
Hi, Ryan.
Ryan, hang in there, man. Hope you're doing well. So, yeah, man, listen, I think we all agree, man. Orville's top notch, man. This is I'm shocked. This is so good. I'm perfectly honest. Not a Seth MacFarlane fan. Some of the jokes are a little weird and out there sometimes because he does seem very. Even if I was being a writer in today's time, I would probably try to write jokes that would be more relevant to now. But he has no problem making 80s and 90s references like off the cuff. Like, I don't understand. Like, I was like, okay, that seems like an obviously dated joke, but the show just keeps moving, just keeps plowing through. So, kudos to them. It's great stuff. Brandon, I think you accurately hit on some of the lessening of the comedy as we head into season 3. And one thing that struck me was, where are we at on comedies? Like, can we do comedies anymore? Like, everything insults everyone. Like, I know we stand-up comedy, we're going through like this major high profile spotlight stuff with some of the big name comedians, that kind of thing. When's the last time you saw a great comedy, or you were like, where are we at on comedies in your opinion?
What comedy? We don't have any comedy on TV.
Or even in film. Like, I mean, I was going back and I was saying, well, it seems like, I know we got The Hangover. And it was like vulgar and over the top humor and things like that.
That's been over 10 years ago.
Right. And then you have a few of these things where it become like this big derivative thing about how there's just nothing there. Like, I don't understand. Like, can we have comedies? And I really got into this, and Megs, maybe you'll laugh at me, over the weekend because I was left alone to my own devices for a few minutes, and I watched back-to-back Mel Brooks movies.
Oh, hey. Hey, but those are the things that we all knew and loved and laughed at, and we actually could enjoy ourselves watching those types of movies. So it's all good.
Yeah. It's just I'm just sort of in shock that it's just sort of out there. So Awesome was popped in here. So Awesome One doing okay. Awesome. Popular Pops. Always a new nickname with Awesome One. I love it. I think Walt White Salsa, which was my hybrid of his version of what he said about me. So that's my version. Troy says, Deadline had an article last month about an indie film from Michael A. McRae, a cancel culture drama called My Time's Up. Now that could prove interesting if we're mocking cancel culture, because that is the goal. That is the Mel Brooks film. Like it's the cancel culture mockery that needs to happen, and then it would make sense.
I think that's what we need. We need something that can mock all of this nonsense that's out there to kind of, I think people are just too tensed up over everything, and maybe that's part of the problem. And we need a comedy that makes fun of it to be able to break that tension, to say, okay, let's all go back to normal now.
Maybe. Ironcastle, you bring up a good point, and it's funny because you say this. I didn't have this sort of in my notes or my thoughts on how to have this conversation about comedic movies. And he says the last real comedy was Tropic Thunder. Marvel movies changed the landscape of Hollywood. So I want to bring this up because my wife, when we were trying to pick movies over the weekend, it was interesting because we, on our digital platform, we had the selection for genre. We hit comedy. And we both sat there like dumbfounded, like, okay, this movie might have a few jokes in it, but why is it being called a comedy? So I was trying to pull the list up as we were doing that. So do you think, Brandon, where are we at on, do you agree with Ironcaster's assessment? Like Marvel's partly to blame with some of this? I'm not sure I disagree. I'm not sure I agree. I just...
partially. It did change what comes out during the summer months, or what gets, how many of these are made per year. We were having maybe one every year and a half, 2 years, to 2 a year, to now 3 a year, and sometimes even more. And then all the crap that they shovel on Disney Plus, and the potential crap that could be coming from Warner Brothers. It doesn't surprise me, but yeah, I can't think of the last truly great comedy movie that was a comedy and not a mixture, not a rom-com, none of that. I can't think of any. And the last few times that I do remember seeing a comedy on TV that I did sit down and watch, yeah, they were canceled. They were either put on the summer, only had the 10 episodes, and then unceremoniously canceled. So
this is from my comedy list on my platform. I did it by release year, so this is the most recent stuff. It has Ghostbusters Afterlife, Fat Man, which is a Mel Gibson Christmas movie, Scoob, with a little Scooby-Doo cartoon movie,
that doesn't count.
Onward, Sonic the Hedgehog, Jumanji, Addams Family. These are the kind of things that are on here. And then the filters include things like Truman Show was on the list, and like Lost Boys was on the list. I'm like, what on earth?
What?
We've lowered the bar of comedy. I'm not saying they're only listed as a comedy. They're probably cross-listed into other categories, but we're so desperate to pretend that comedies exist that we're just making stuff that has some jokes in it a comedy. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, at that level of criteria, you would put a lot of the Marvel movies in there.
They probably are listed if I scrolled through long enough.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Also, you're absolutely right. Like you're tuning into FNT, Comic Skate stuff, Yellow Flash, because just to have some laughs and some fun, right? We're looking for genre stories and humor and just cutting up and doing that kind of stuff. So I couldn't agree more. Like that's literally why we're doing it, right? I'm tuning in especially for FNT because I want to see what genius Perry Chan has done this week. So people are demoralized. Keeping up with morale in these times is extremely important. Well, yeah. And all I do is mock people. Don't give me ideas. Well, listen, bro, you bring it. You have to hurt me. Adam Sandler also had a string of less than stellar comedies. Jack and Jill comes to mind. No, Adam Sandler is a hit and miss thing. Usually it's, every so often, and I don't know. It is tricky. He'll admit that too. He just does it. He admits it. So,
but he still does it. That's the thing with him is he doesn't give up on it. He keeps going back to that well, although his most recent outing is not necessarily a comedy, but more of a drama setup, and I guess he's really good at it. So,
yeah, The Hustle is something that's new, and people are praising. I got told about it this last week or so about watching that, and I know he did Uncut Gems, and that was praised as well. Neither of which I've seen yet, but started with Obama pushing the racism stuff, and slowly comedy shows on Netflix and elsewhere started disappearing. Maybe, I don't know. Tom Conkle said he might work with Mel Gibson in a sci-fi comedy. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take it.
So,
I wouldn't say no.
Me
Pacific saying
neither.
that he's I'm down. Look, I want to have a laugh from time to time. I really just don't care. Like I purposely sought out some sort of thing for the thumbnail. Like you couldn't make, and they tried to make a Coming to America too, which I did not even bother even trying to give it a minute of my life, because
Yeah,
the
it's
only
a
thing that made
waste.
it inappropriate was what made it funny. Like you have the black guy just pushing every stereotype and mocking every stereotype. The fact that you're going to do it in modern time, I didn't believe them. And of course, Animal House was just truly almost groundbreaking. Like it was like, how could we basically put everyone's college experience on screen and just laugh at ourselves of all some of the stupid insanity us or our friends did? And that was kind of what happened in one film. So with that, Mags, is there a certain comedy or two that are kind of like top tier for you, like you keep going back to?
Oh gosh. Well, I like when I do sit down, I like to watch some of the old SNL skits with
Okay.
oh gosh, I always get them confused the names, but I see the picture. He's right on your thumbnail. Actually, is it Jim Belushi, John Belushi? I can't
Okay,
think of
John
it.
Belushi, and
Yeah.
so that's like 70s SNL, like the very
Oh yeah.
beginning.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
one of my favorite ones of his is when I love seeing the reruns and either watch it on YouTube or somewhere else. Is like him cutting the deli stuff up with with a katana.
Oh yeah, he's a samurai deli, I think is what they call the sketch. But yeah,
Yes, I think so.
different people come in. Yeah.
That stuff was, I mean, that stuff back in the day, the SNL days was comedy gold. And then something else that my dad introduced me to was you probably have heard of Second City TV or
Oh yeah.
SCTV.
Yes,
With
absolutely.
John Candy, Dan Aykroyd, and gosh,
They all got started. That's where they all got started.
that's where they all got started, and some of that stuff is hilarious. Some of it's a little but there's some really good and funny parts that give you that good old belly laugh, and those are good types of laughs. Laughing is good for you. It keeps you positive. It makes you smile more and everything, and we need that back. So a lot of times I like to go back to some of the older stuff. Stuff like The Princess Bride,
Yes, perfect.
Spaceballs,
Perfect.
just even if they're all parodies, it just doesn't matter. They
I
were
don't
just
care.
they were comedy golds that we could sit down and still rewatch and still laugh at the same stupid jokes. And so that's what a comedy is for. When it's done well like that, you need it, and you can wear out the CD disc or wear out the VHS tape. It's just,
Yes.
that's good stuff. And I miss stuff like that.
Yeah, just talking about different comedians in the 2000s, left and right, getting movies. Also, Dane Cook, Kevin James. Listen, I'm not going to even hate on some of the Kevin James, Dane Cook. Not so much Dane Cook and Russell Brand, but definitely Kevin James. They can just be on. I don't even care that they're dumb. I don't even care that Zookeeper or Mall Cop are dumb. If it can just be clean and stupid and funny and what, I don't care. Like it can just be on. So I'm good.
Exactly. Yeah.
The Young Frankenstein's like classic, bro. Yeah, we're talking like top 10 kind of stuff. It's like if we only had to put one Mel Brooks comedy in the top 10, what would it be? Would be the problem. Like which are the ones are we going to pick? Because there's 3 or 4 that deserved at least conversation. So he survived his tech stuff. We'll give it to Pacific 414 in just 1 second. Young Frank's one of the few movies I've watched with my dad, and he wasn't a movie guy at all. Yeah, because it's freaking brilliant. Oh my gosh, it's a good film.
About the only thing of modern comedy, let's say from the year 2000 on up, that really sticks in my mind, the stupid comedy like the American Pie series. It came out the year I graduated, so I gravitate towards that.
Yep.
But Jackass.
Jackass was good for you. Okay, that's a good choice.
Jackass. All of them. They're all hilarious. Of course, they're different. They're hilarious in their different ways. But yeah, I'm looking over this one IMDb list for 2000 to now. Almost every single one of them on here are not comedies. They're either mix or they're just forgettable.
Yeah, they're known to be something else first and foremost. Like we were saying, like Lost Boys. Yeah. It's not. You would not think comedy when you think about that film. So,
and it's funny that you mentioned. We're mentioning movies and such. I know one thing that I like to rewatch when I'm literally want to have something on in the background, or I'm working intensely at work, and sometimes you just need that a show that you can just let it run the entire time. And I know people will, probably cancel me for this, but I love The Office, and I know that's just a show.
Why are you
But
gonna
to be
Why are you
quite,
gonna be ashamed of The Office? My daughter
but
is Office
some
obsessed.
some people, hey, look, there are those out there that think it's a dumb show, but you know what? That's part of the reason it has that charm. It is dumb, but to be quite honest, for those of us who actually work in the office, it's
Yeah.
actually kind of true, and it's really funny and ironic. So it makes me laugh because I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually see
You work
traits
with
of
these
this.
people? Yeah,
I
you
work with
some
these
people.
types of people sometimes.
It's like a Dilbert cartoon. If you guys are old enough, you know what Dilbert
Exactly.
is. Yeah,
I
Dilbert
love
cartoon.
Dilbert. Yes,
I love
yes.
Dilbert.
Hey to
Well,
Gray coming in from Japan. That's old school.
It's funny when you think about it. NBC at one point had three of the best comedies that have been put on TV over the past 20 years. The Office was one of them.
Yep.
Community was another one. Parks and Rec was the third one. And I love Parks and Rec. I prefer it over The Office. And then Community is just funny. They're all comedy gold because they weren't afraid to be funny or to try and push things a little. They were willing to take the risks, and it paid off. With Netflix on all their troubles, when they lost all three of those shows, then again, I don't think they had Community. They didn't have Community exclusively, but they did have Parks and Rec.
Mm-hmm.
And they did have The Office pretty close to exclusive. And once, especially with The Office, once it was gone, that is when their troubles really truly started, as far as people staying subscribed, eyeballs tuning in, getting all these other shows on the periphery into their field of vision because they were there for The Office. Now that they're no longer there for that, none of the other stuff is working as it used to. And so they've got to adapt or die, but it looks like they're in the die mode right now. So
I'm going to come right back to you, Mags. I'm sorry. Let me just welcome Pacific 414. Thank you, bro. Thank you, Mike, for coming on in, man. Sorry about your computer stuff, man. We're great to have you, though.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm sorry for my tardiness, but it was around 3:13 local time that the ISP went out, and
we all are going to go through tech stuff at one time or another, bro. At least it was on my stream and didn't ruin one of yours. So we take it with a grain of salt. Keep on moving. Just keep it moving. So, sorry to interrupt you, Mags. Let's get back to what you were saying. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to piggyback off of Brandon and say, he's right in that, that I think I remember reading somewhere, and I somebody can correct me. Of course, somebody can always find better answers in the chat, but I think The Office was like the #1 restreamed show on Netflix, and so that was a huge deal when NBC pulled its content from them. So that tells you right there that those types of shows, or even the films that are like those types of shows or older, the classics, people love that stuff. There's rewatchability with that, and that's what the audience needs. We don't want any of this other nonsense.
I couldn't agree more. Eyecatchers bring in a few more to the table. Employee of the month and Dodgeball. Not a big fan of Employee of the Month, really. Dodgeball's classic for me, though.
Yes,
I love Dodgeball. I quote Dodgeball pretty regularly in my life, so that's a thing. And Castle, you're talking my language, man. Clean fun is good fun. Doesn't have to be raunchy. I don't mind some. But yeah, I think it's even more genius if you can make us laugh without actually being raunchy. I got to be honest with you, to be even more genius about it. So, Gray hasn't seen American Office, so the British one with Ricky Gervais is hilarious and uncomfortable at the same time. That's what I hear. It's what I hear. And then Community is one of the top 5 shows. It's just absolutely brilliant. War Monkeys agreeing about Office Space, which is absolutely a freaking brilliant film as well.
Yes, it was
one of my favorites.
Yeah, so
Mike Judge at his best.
We were just discussing like the death of the comedies. Like I'm not trying to keep up with chat at this point. It's just going bonkers. We're talking about stuff. Mike, comedy's kind of like dead. Like we're kind of in this dead water where you're not allowed to offend. You're not allowed to do anything that's funny. You're not allowed to do these things. So, for you, how do you see the comedic genre? And is there a movie in the last few years you could recommend as a good comedy? I'm not even sure anymore.
I can't. I honestly can't. I mean, the other day I found myself watching Caddyshack for the millionth time.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Just so freaking good. It's so good. So good. So let's see. Let me see. British comedy show about the YMCA. Can't remember the name. I watched it on PBS. It's
At one point, the
familiar,
British
also
had a ton of good comedies.
Oh,
Although
yeah,
I
yeah,
will
yeah.
say, as far as a classic show goes, I did go through the whole entire series of Cheers, and I loved it, especially the first 3 seasons with Coach there. Coach was just so good. Just the comedic timing between him and Ted Danson and everybody else was just great. The show is great, but I really loved those first 3 years.
Hot Tub Time Machine. Now,
Never saw it.
I got nothing for you, Ryan. However, I'm a little shocked with your demeanor that's at the top of your list, but okay, I'll take it. I was a little surprised by that one, to be honest, bro. So each their own, man. It's good. That's the other thing about comedies. Everybody can have their own favorites, and who are we to judge? Like, it doesn't matter, right? So,
Yep.
Anyway, I think it's kind of, I think for me, I think it was really struck me in the wake of the Orville thought. Like I said, the stuff with my wife, we're looking for comedies. And I think, Mags, you were hitting on this better than anyone, because you were kind of talking about, like, SNL stuff can just be short. So it can just be on. It can be something short that you can get a little dose and a little laughter. You were also talking about Office can just be on. It can just be playing in the background. I don't have to pay a lot of attention to it. And then Brandon's examples are like these focused, really great films that are also, strong comedies. Megs, isn't it just they can all fill different roles for different reasons, and it's just the thirst that we want to laugh?
I have to quote something, or at least a song from back in my childhood. Mary Poppins. I love to laugh. We need to bring that sentiment back, and laughter is so. Laughter is also a communal thing too. When we're all laughing together, it's joyful. It gives us those not to be scientifically proven, but it gives us good endorphins, and it exercises the right kind of muscles. It's overall mind, body, and soul good for you. And the destruction of today's laughter, or at least a suppression of it, in my opinion, I think it's kind of evil. It's kind of making us ill in such a way. And we need to bring it back to heal humanity. And good comedies from a long time ago, and from shows to shorts to movies, that stuff that we all talk about. Like, hey, you just got out of the theater seeing Caddyshack, for instance, and you walk out. I wasn't alive then when I saw it, but in the theater. But I can watch it now in a group setting, and we can all laugh and point at different aspects of the film, and just enjoy it and laugh and just talk about it, and goof off, and even do our own little movement skits of what goes on. That's a community thing, and that brings us all together, and on a common ground, and it's good for the soul too. So
yes, couldn't agree more. Brandon, I assume this is Blackadder. Is the name of the British show, the YMCA one that was referenced earlier? Is that what you were?
Oh no, Blackadder is.
It was Blackadder.
It's got Rowan Atkins in it, and
okay, yeah.
His character, and starting at one point in British history, and then his progeny, and later. And yes, Spy Family is so good. That's what I really love about anime, especially right now. There are some really great comedic animes going.
Okay.
Spy Family is a good one. It's so, you have to see it. It is so full of heart and character, and it's just so good. The other one that I've been watching, we're finally going to get a second season of it this year, is Uzaki-chan Just Wants to Hang Out. It takes, how can I explain this? All right. The one thing that Japan has a problem with right now is the low birth rate. They're not having kids as much as they can. So they've got that crisis going on. Well, part of that is that a lot of the young men are more or less doing the whole men going their own way thing. Well, what happens if you have a young guy in his 20s, a junior in college, or when the show starts, he's a sophomore in college. He has a former high school friend, or they're both in the swim club. She goes up to him at the very beginning of the show, says, "Hey, I want to hang out with you." She watches him. He doesn't respond to her basically for a whole year, and she finally takes it upon herself to interject her into his life. He is such a loner and loves his alone time and loves just doing what he does without anybody else interfering with it, that when she does interject herself into the mix, hilarity ensues. And you see the differences. You can see a lot of differences between how things are done here in this country versus how things are in Japan. You know, the level of respect and phrasing and things like that. It's an absolutely hilarious show. In fact, that's the one that I've been binging today, and even though it's my second time through, it's still funny. It's
Where's that stream? Is this stream on Netflix or is it somewhere else?
No, this is on Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll has it, and I was just looking it up. The manga has been going since 2017. The anime came out in 2000. We're getting the second, or not 2000, 2020. We're getting the second season later this year, and here's the brief synopsis of this show. Hana Uzaki is thrilled to discover that she is attending the same college as her fellow high school upperclassman, Shinichi Sakurai. However, after a year of watching him just laze around, she comes to the conclusion that he has turned into a loner. She decides to spend as much time with Shinichi as possible, believing that he is an introvert or intimidating, which is uncool and unacceptable. Beginning her project to have Shinichi experience a fun lifestyle, Hana stalks him like an annoying pest. Will Shinichi ever make her understand that he prefers doing things by himself, or will he be won over by Hana's zany charm? And when we talk about zany charm, let me share with you what they kind of mean by that. So let me get this shared here. There we go.
While you're doing that, also one points out that the Crunchyroll updated their app recently, so keep an eye out for that as well if you're using the PS4. And this is a little bit about what we're talking about here.
Yeah, that's Hana.
All right.
And well, if you know how most Japanese women are built, most of them don't have that big of a front end, or if they do, it's more like a, as one person put it, what they consider huge is like a C cup. She reminds me a lot of my I hate to say it, but my ex. Super short, 5 foot tall and oversized developed. So it's not common there, but it gets played for laughs and gags and all other things.
Okay. Stuff that we don't really make those kind of jokes here, but it's really fun to play it up there and kind of hint at things that we don't say anything over here. Mike, when we first started to talk, you threw out Caddyshack, which is obviously among the classics of classics when it comes to comedies, that kind of thing. What are some of your other go-to favorites that you really do enjoy, and they're kind of like on your regular rotation because I got to have a laugh kind of thing?
Stripes.
Oh, Bill Murray fan. Woo.
Yes. Groundhog Day. Continuing that theme. Of course, Ghostbusters. And, Blues Brothers. That's a great movie. It's got a little bit of comedy and, of course, great music.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So, to transition from this, I think it kind of, and Dave Bob popped in here. Hey, Dave Bob, bro. Thank you so much for coming in here, spending time with us. The thing I noticed this last couple weeks, and especially the last few days, was there's like stories and projects being announced, and I'm like, are fans being trolled? Are we being punked? I don't know if you guys heard this, right? Joker 2, a sequel. Not a surprise. The surprise was they didn't do it right away. Joaquin Phoenix said he didn't want to do it, but the other part of the story that's weird is Lady Gaga might be attached and it might be musical. Like, okay, this can't be real, right? I'm being punked. There's no way this freaking. And then you have like the Aztek Batman animated project, and it's all about social justice themes. you have this whole, and I know this one is definitely a troll, but the Reva might get her own show from Obi-Wan. It's like, do you feel like we're in a weird place, Mike, where what is going on? Like, are we? It's hard to even tell like what's real and not real because these people just do crazy things like all the time.
I do feel that way. I have to stop myself from even reading the article thinking this has got to be a joke. It's not Groundhog Day, but this has got to be a joke. This isn't April Fool's, but it's got to be a joke.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Mags, you feel the same way? Like it's just you see some of this stuff and you're like, this can't be real.
I sometimes wonder if this is just, and hear me out. So I'm kind of thinking out loud in a way. I'm wondering if this is like mainstream media is always looking for clicks and they're always looking for views and they will do anything and everything to get eyes into their articles, so to speak, for the ad revenue and all that kind of stuff. So, I think you're right. Like we are being punked, we are being trolled because some of this stuff is just, it's just out of this world. It's so out of left field. It's like an outlier, like a Joker 2 musical. Like what the heck is that?
I didn't.
It just seems so. Yeah, it just seems so far fetched that it seems very artificial and made up and clickbaity and everything else in between. So it does make you wonder and question: are they doing this on purpose just to laugh at us, or this is just their little way because they are the trolls that they are, and sometimes bad PR or weird PR. I call this weird PR, to be quite honest. Weird PR to get some sort of clicks and views their way. Is that good PR? I don't know. It's just odd. It's an odd way to do business, in my opinion. And me as a fan, I don't find it funny. I find it very, I find it, and not necessarily disgusting or insulting or whatever. I just find it very like, you know what, you can stick to your own little world and it will continue to shrink and more people will leave and I will just laugh at you in the end. But yeah.
War Monkey says he agrees. He's like, I feel like I'm being punked, doesn't it? Yeah, it's so weird. Steven Ransom says it is, and it isn't a troll. There has been going on for a while. Example, Echo the series. Yeah. Oh man, bro. The worst part was I got down the rabbit's hole and the kids got me this Marvel app so I can read all these comic books and I will just randomly check certain things to see if it's true or not. There's they turned Elektra into Daredevil, like stuff like that. You're like, this can't be true. Yep, it's true. Dave Bob, you're right. I had that on my list too. I don't want to ramble off like 12 more examples, but Predator Prey, it's like a ripoff of Fanfil, and it's also a troll. Like, yeah, I felt like I was being trolled when I wrote about that press release when it originally was announced. I called the title of my article "Amber vs. Predator" for a reason. Like 100-pound Comanche girl who's, quote, literally in the press release. This was not a clickbaity article. This was their presser, Mags, going against gender norms in a Comanche tribe. It's so freaking stupid. You're like, this can't be real.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like it's another way to gaslight us, the fans. And I think people are waking up. It is slow, but I think people are starting to realize like, this is weird. What, it just seems so, it's like now they're trying to push the limits to the point now that people are waking up and saying, well, this is weird. This is odd. This is unusual. Your instincts and your inklings basically are starting to get that spidey senses tingling that something's weird going on here. So I don't know. If it's really true, consider me, definitely prove me wrong. But it's just I don't know. But hey, I like what Castle says here.
I know Castle's giving them good ideas. Like it's a musical in Joker's mind. And I'm like, wait a minute. And then Steven Ransom says it's Sweeney Todd and Gotham. I'm like, okay, crap. You guys are giving them decent examples to work with. So you guys need to knock that off right now. Because if I was writing something like that, I'm like, I don't want to write it, but we could probably make that one work. You could probably make some of this stuff work.
Do you wonder if Hollywood is creative enough to even consider those types of options? Because if the chat can come up with something like that to make it plausible, I don't think Hollywood could do that, to be quite honest.
Ryan, okay. In my view, the mainstream entertainment industry wants to punish viewers. It is all agenda. They run out of money. They're getting bailed out by government with recently printed money. Maybe. I definitely don't think they have any respect for the people that are paying the bills, and they think they can get bailed out. So, Chris Purge is agreeing with Castle, which is disturbing because great minds think alike. So I don't like the where this is going. Let's see. Let me get to Brandon. Is there a story like you feel like you're being punked when you saw the headline? You're like, that can't be true.
Hell, all of it.
Yeah.
It seems like with almost everything everywhere, if it's coming from the lamestream, old ass dying media, that's exactly what it feels like. Everything is played as a joke. Everything that they try to say is right is wrong, wrong is right, being gaslit up one side and down the other. I just can't take anything that they say seriously and or at face value. Now, is it possible that they could be completely serious about this? Yeah. And given their current history and the way Hollywood has worked in recent years, it wouldn't surprise me that they would try to pull off something as stupid as that. Now, I could be completely wrong. They might have some sort of musical and comedic genius that can write a Joker that is a musical. But technically, we've had something like that, as was mentioned, Sweeney Todd. Mm-hmm. So,
I don't know, man.
Yeah, it all feels too weird. It's like someone flipped on the CERN thing again, and this is the weirdness that we're getting. We're living through Weirdmageddon.
The multiverse is shaken again. It didn't break yet. We already broke it in 2015 into 16. It's like it broke it. Now we're like it's shaken again. Like doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. Mike, do you do a lot of videos on your channel dealing with do you hate watch? Do you get into some of these crazy stories and that kind of thing much?
There are times I do, and then there are times I tell myself, no. You've seen plenty of Cub games that have made you pretty mad, and you don't need to put yourself through this because, to me, if people see that I'm angry all the time in my videos because of something, it's not good content in my view.
Yeah, I guess to a certain extent. I have to admit, I kind of laugh at you a little bit because of being a Cubs fan and all. I guess because the Rays didn't win any games for how many years, and now they're at least decent. And I still don't know exactly how they pull it off, but I do kind of have a little bit of Schadenfreude a little bit with your Cub misery. But I love you, bro. I love you. It's okay. Hang in there now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Because they're not making it easy right now.
No, it's rough. It's rough. It's a good transition too, because I want to touch on the fact that because you do have some sports that are kind of sprinkled in and that kind of thing. Is it weird to see sports as its own there's not? I talk a lot about Venn diagrams, like things kind of overlap a lot, but it seems like there's like the fandom. And then there's like the normie part of it overlap with like the sports people. Like the sports people would go see Marvel movies or Star Wars movies and things like that. But there's not a lot of like sports, even sports movies, really. They're few and far between that gets talked about in like mainstream fandom. But also I don't think that they really care too much about what's happening in our universe, even though we're all basically battling a culture war. They complain about regularly as well. What do you see from that side of things as far as the culture war battle and like them waking up and seeing it in entertainment as well? Or is it, I don't know, just put your finger on the pulse for me a little bit.
Okay. If I'm looking at it specifically from a baseball standpoint, there are a lot of fans who aren't happy with the current commissioner because he's tampering with all the rules that have been established in baseball that have been there for years. And one example is extra innings. And extra innings, remember how teams used to try to actually win? Not anymore. Now you have a ghost runner standing at second. And a lot of fans, including myself, are tired of it. Well, we don't want this. We don't want.
I'm sorry. What's a ghost runner on second? That's something we did when we were kids. We were playing street ball. We didn't have enough people. Brandon. It's Brandon's turn to bat again. There's not enough people, so he's going to have to go and just as a ghost runner on second. Like that was how we did it. So that's actually made itself over to actual MLB.
Yes. So what happens? Whoever made the last out in the previous inning stands at second base in the 10th inning. So say, Patrick Wisdom, third baseman for the Cubs, makes the out in the bottom of the 9th. Well, the Cubs come up in the bottom of the 10th, and he's standing at second base. And it's up to the next 3 batters to drive him in to try to win the game. And a lot of fans do not like that idea.
So they just don't want games to go on and on and on until somebody can win. They're just trying to speed this up so people can score and go home for the night.
Yes, that's exactly what Manfred's been trying to do. And a lot of fans, like I said, including myself, don't like it. And being a National League guy, this is the first year where the DH is going to be permanently in the National League. 2020 was an exception, but this is the first year where all 162 games in the National League, there's a designated hitter. I'm sorry. I'm a National League purist. The pitcher can come up there and help his own cause. Even if he strikes out, he's no better than the guy that you're paying, an 8-year contract and $155 million to go up there and swing his bat and strike out. So,
Mags, I don't know about you. I'm not really following sports right now, but I'm just blown away. There's like this major rule change in major sports that's worth billions of dollars to the point where they're emulating things that we did when we were children. And that's like put into professional sports to shorten games. Talk about making me feel like we should be able to talk to these people about our Star Wars pain, right?
Well, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that because I used to be, before the recent dark times of these years, I used to be a huge, and I'll admit it, and people will probably hate me for this one too, but I used to be a huge Carolina Panthers fan. And because I grew up when the Panthers were created right in smack dab of Charlotte. So when you're a little girl at 5 years old and this team is created, you just get swept up into it, and then you become a fan for life, and then not anymore because these organizations are just ruining the very thing that which we love. And it's the leadership of the situation. Mike just mentioned, the commissioner and everything. And it just dawned on me that these types of people that are in higher positions of power, like Kathleen Kennedy and other areas, and even in sports and mainstream media, it's just like, they're ruining the very thing that which created your audience. So why are you destroying that?
Yeah, it's so strange.
And I have not watched football. I don't even watch my family. So let me tell you this. I know y'all are Cubs fans, but my family comes from the Northeast area, and are huge Yankees fans. And so I was one once too. I just don't watch it anymore. I don't watch any basketball. I don't watch it. I don't want to watch it anymore. It sounds so weird, but I hate watching it now because of all the agenda and all the and everything that's going on. And then the sports rules change and everything else. And some of these athletes have gotten really whiny, in my opinion. And you know what? I'm over it. I'm done. And I have other areas in my life that I can fill to take those place, and I don't need it anymore. I don't need the headache. I don't need the grief. I don't need the talking down to me as if I'm a terrible fan because I don't support the current thing. I just can't deal with it anymore. I already have enough issues and problems in my life that I want to deal with, and somebody else trying to tell me what I should care about is ridiculous. So I just don't watch it anymore.
Steven said hate leads to the dark side. Yes, it does. I do think language regulation is a thing, and it's coming. Hate speech is a thing, and words are broken. Yeah. It's definitely a crazy thing that we can't allow. I'm a big proponent that we live in a country where it is also, you kind of said it, free walk if your feelings were hurt. I'm a freedom to be offended. Whoopa Troopa says sports. Yeah, I know. Listen, man, I don't know what to say. Speaking of sports, Pokemon. Catch them all. Good job, Brandon. That's good. That's good stuff, man. Way to sneak that in there. That's good stuff. Other folks in there firing at coaches, speaking out on opinions. This is nuts for me. I do not understand just the platforming stuff, things like that. And people are talking some major sports up in here and that kind of thing. So I think it's a little weird to see all of our institutions like this. Castle, are you down here in Florida, bro? We need to touch base. If we are, we get together, man. I didn't know that. I got a Lightning fan down here in Tampa with me. Brandon, is there like an institution, like, and I don't say the anime circles, but help me figure this out, because they seem like all of that stuff seems like it's all hitting on all cylinders. Is there a piece of it though where you're like, this is really broken and they got to get this piece fixed over here? I don't know which part of the arena you would like to speak to on that, but I want to give you a chance too, since we touched on a couple other things.
Sports pisses me off. Every single one of the major sports leagues, they all suck balls, and in this case, the hockey, they suck a puck. But every single one of them have a level of wokeness to them that is just far and beyond. Baseball, what Manfred has done there, I can't say what needs to happen there, because if I did, we'd all get yanked off of the YouTubes. That's how much I despise and don't like that man. It's the same with the NFL. There's a reason why it's called the No Fun League. Same thing with the NBA. Reason why it's called the Thug League. And then hockey, hockey was the one sport that I thought, okay, maybe they won't do, they got to do a little bit of this because most of their teams are in these massively blue areas, quote unquote. But even they have taken a lot of the stuff and bent the knee. NASCAR, there's a reason why they're called the NASTARds. I mean, I've completely lost it with all sports. I used to be a massive sports junkie.
Me too.
You name it, all year long, every single sport, follow from start to finish, watch the playoffs, watch the big games, spent the money on it. I spent ungodly amounts of money on all that stuff, having the big screen, having the surround sound, not only for movies, but for the sporting events,
the big games.
And now,
yeah,
I haven't touched any of that stuff in 5-7 years, and I have no intention of ever going back to it. But I can say, as far as what has been affected the least by all of this insanity, it really truly is manga and anime, and that's because the creators in Japan have done a very good job of gatekeeping and making sure that the Western woke wankers don't do their crap to their art. Now, when they bring their stuff here and dub it, there's been problems with that, but that's that is being addressed. And the other thing that you can do is don't watch the dub. Watch the original Japanese with the subtitling. Every once in a while, you'll get a little change here and there, but typically when translating from Japanese to English, there's just a ton of words in the modern parlance that we use that they don't have even a remote equivalent for. It's almost, I can't even really compare it to speaking Spanish. I know that with Spanish, they've got the feminine and the masculine words for specific things. And for everybody out there, Latinx is a slur. Don't use it.
Yeah, it's insulting, that's for sure.
It's massively insulting.
I can use a biblical example for you, because in the Bible, there's actually 4 different words for love. They mean 4 different things. So there's love. You got to be careful with how it's being used, because the translation matters. So football, NASCAR, 10 years ago. Isn't it sad? Awesome one. Isn't it just sad when we have to say, I used to go, I used to see. Russian League Hockey, KHL. You have to... Whoopa, let me know where I can watch that. I would really be interested to see just some sort of experience there.
There is one professional wrestling organization that I would love to watch, but I just haven't taken the time yet, and that's the All Japan Pro Wrestling. Their professional wrestling leagues are fun because they like to have fun.
Awesome one. Who is this Redskins you speak of? I do not know what that is.
They don't exist anymore.
Yeah. I prefer rugby at this point. I actually did an entire article, and I think it's still on the Global Dispatch, because we own that domain. We just don't really, we got demonetized and blacklisted. We're basically, the website has been blacklisted to the point where we're like a hacker site now, just because. So basically we just start selling links now. We just sell links. You can pay like $20, only back to your site. I have no idea how people do it, but we make some money on the side doing that. So, but I did a whole analysis on the Redskins thing, whole analysis on the historical. I'd have to figure out how to find it. But anyway, that's me in Texas. Wasn't born there, but lived in San Antonio like 4 years as a kid, and still absolutely love the state. Yeah, listen, man, listen, you got to do what you got to do. So
There is
it's
one
also
a
sports
shame to
movie.
see this stuff just broken. It really is. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
There is one sports movie that I still, at the very beginning of baseball season, there is one movie that I will watch, and I'll
Is it a
watch it from.
baseball movie?
Yes.
All right, let's see if we can guess. Let's see. So I get to go last because I'm a host. Mike, what do you think? His baseball movie that he has to watch before the season?
Field of Dreams.
Nope.
Mags?
I'm sorry, I was sneezing. What was the question?
Baseball
There's-
movie that
yeah.
Brandon watches before every baseball season.
Oh,
It's evidently not Field of Dreams.
it's not Field of Dreams. Major League?
Oh, you got it.
Wow. I was going to
I
go Bull Durham.
love Major
I was going
League.
to go Bull Durham. Good job, Matt.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Major League is so
Literally.
good. And it's one of those movies that would never get made today. And of course, the team does not exist anymore because reasons. Manfred, that bastard.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
I will say, when somebody asks me, so who did the Cubs beat in 2016? I'll say the Cleveland Indians. Because in the record books, that's who they're known as.
Exactly.
And on the Blu-ray set, that's who they're called. The Cleveland Indians.
By the way, I did watch Winning Time, which is an HBO documentary about the Lakers, Magic Johnson's rookie season in '79. Mike, I don't know if you got a chance to see that or not, but if you have or haven't, we should touch base. We could do a stream about that show. I enjoyed it, even though there's a lot of issues with it. I did enjoy it, so we should touch base about that.
I haven't watched it yet, but
I'd recommend it. It's fun.
I'm down with watching it.
It's raunchy and rough, but that was how the Showtime stuff was there. So, but yeah, guys, it was really good. It was interesting. So, as someone who lived through that era, it was really a big special time for me. So, I'm going to throw around the horn a little bit. Brandon, let's go back the other way. What is something coming up? And I'm still trying to catch up on some of the stuff you recommended last time. I'm sorry, because of all these shows I'm trying to watch. What's the high of the high recommends of things that are kind of relatively recent or new that you want to recommend for folks to watch? Some good stuff.
Oh, man. Well, besides Uzaki-chan Wants to Hang Out. Oh,
I gotta check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just fun and funny.
I can take
Yeah,
that. It sounds like I can also watch a little bit at a time. I don't have to watch hours upon hours to have some fun. I sometimes I can't do 2 hours, but I could do 30 minutes. I could do 40 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just it's just a 24-minute episode and only just the 12 episodes. Spy Family, it's only 24 minutes long. They're currently up to episode 10, and I think with that one they're also going to go to 12. Well, since we're talking sports, it's a little older of a show, and there's 150 episodes of it, but it's a great one that started back in about 2000, 2001. It's called Hijime no Ippu, The Fighting. It has to deal with a young man who is raised by a single mom who gets bullied at school. And while he's getting bullied one day, a professional middleweight fighter happens to be strolling by, takes the kids that are causing him grief, tells him to stop it. So they try to punch him and he just dodges all of them. And so they're like, we got to get out of here, man. He takes poor Ippu back to the gym. When he wakes up after he's bandaged and all that, he says, here, try hitting this bag. He hits the thing so hard, it takes his knuckles down to the bone. Wow. He has a power punch that is unbelievable. So from that point on, you get to see how he gets accepted into the gym, how his training in the gym goes, and how he goes on to become one of the greatest professional boxers in Japan history.
Put that title in the chat for me there, Brandon, if you would, please, so we all can get it. So Brian's going a little heavy on me here, pointing out that Japanese is peripheral target for the woke ideology. It's not on the radar screen, so to speak. While the woke seek to destroy the West, Chinese influence will seep into Japan, in my view. Possibly, yeah. And then actually, Awesome One's pointing out, very, very true. I actually went to more Native American events and parades in D.C. than anywhere else, and they're probably called racist now, if they're allowed to even have them, that kind of thing. So,
yeah,
I just think that's Clean Freak plays soccer in a great show. Look at Mags. Thank you, Mags. You're so awesome. Thank you, sweetheart.
You're welcome.
Meg,
I'm
what
a-
is it? What is the top of your list of love things that you're doing that you like and enjoy besides Orville? Because I know you got some catching up to do with Orville, but what else?
Uh, well, I just recently watched the premiere of Gina Carano's movie Terror on the Prairie
All right.
on the Daily Wire, and that was a great movie. So I highly recommend watching it if you really want to really be up on recent and new content and support independent studios and trying to watch something that is Hollywood different in a way. I highly suggest watching that film to support our girl, but also to help encourage as well as give constructive feedback back to them so they can improve and move forward with this, because I think it's highly important to not only support different types of content from people who are trying to break away from the dying dinosaur, so to speak, of Hollywood and of course of mainstream media, but also you support and encourage, but you're not going to enable them to keep making the same mistakes. Let's continue to improve. Let's continue to build up. Should continue to be more independent from those who try to keep us in chains to the same mediocrity that we've been given. And one of those is the latest project from Gina Carano. So I highly suggest watching that. It's a great movie. I am not one for very gruesome situations, but I actually enjoyed it. So that's saying something.
Awesome. It's great to hear. You had a good recommendation. Good to hear. So
it's got great stakes in it, which for whatever reason Hollywood doesn't understand, the high stakes anymore, and have that build up to tension. There are some flaws to it, but at the same time, I see it having rewatchability. So there is that. So definitely check it out, y'all. I know they're still running a special for their subscription because it is exclusive to the Daily Wire, but definitely check it out.
Awesome. Mike, what do you got going on? What do you think is the top of your list of just this is stuff I can actually recommend?
I'm definitely going to check out Terror on the Prairie. I mean, one of the things I don't really talk about on my channel too much is the fact that I like Westerns. So I'm looking forward to Terror on the Prairie. And, just make my own judgment, whether it's good, whether it's bad, even if it's, in the middle. As long as it's enjoyable and I can lose myself for a couple hours, that's what I want. To get trapped in that world. And of course, you have episode 3 of the Orville at midnight Eastern. I'm looking forward to seeing what else Seth MacFarlane has planned for us this season. I'm really enjoying what we've received so far in these first 2 episodes. And
it's awesome. Dave Bob says technology is getting better and better. Small content creators will take over some of the space. Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think they already are. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm listening and spending more time with YouTube than I am most of this other stuff. I kind of have to work it all in and find my balance. So
I mean, look at Geeks and Gamers and the Friday Night Tights crew. Look what the shows that they're building. So they are taking away the audience slowly from mainstream media. And you know what? We need better and different content, just like what they're providing for us. So
I agree. Invest your hard-earned dollars in organizations entertainment that doesn't belittle the consumer. Amen.
Yes.
You can just agree to disagree. We do not have to agree on everything. So, all right. Well, awesome. Well, listen, we're at our sort of planned time. We could stop right there. I'm going to probably continue a little bit because I want to follow up with what Mike was saying. But if any of you have to drop out, I totally understand. So now's your chance to say so. So, Brandon, you out?
Yeah, it's time for dinner. I got a few other things got to take care of around the house. Yeah, be sure to, if you haven't already, come check out my channel. We've got lots of great recommendations. And of course, this month is Modern Anime Month. And man, oh man, so much great content has come out these past 10 to 12 years. It's damn near impossible to keep up with. But I will do my best. And my last live stream, I put out 4 shows that I highly recommend, and then 3 of them that I couldn't decide between. And then I think tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow I'm going to do another live stream at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and I think I'm going to throw it open to everyone who wants to come in and talk modern anime. So, if you're going to be around tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, stop by. I'll have the link out there for you. Other than that, the main show is Saturdays at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. for you West Coast people. I'm not sure who the guest is going to be this week, but it's always a good one. Always have great guests and great discussions. So
That's awesome. Brandon, thanks so much for coming back on with me and hanging out with us and sharing some good stuff and learn a little bit more, man. It's awesome. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And Mags, we'll see you. Mike, we'll see you. And Pops, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, bro. Anytime.
Take care, Brandon.
Take care, Brandon.
Steve
We'll see
Ranch, it's all he's been watching, man. Steve's everywhere, man. He's a beast too. He's got some good talents too, not tapping into these Photoshop meme making stuff. We kind of got meme for the first time last night, I guess, technically, because Ironcaster said, I'd like to see Loki as this. And next thing you know, Steve Ranch pulled it out.
You never know what the chat and the Legion of Memers will do.
Well, we're new at this too. That was good for us, our first time where that kind of happened in real time for us. We're like, whoa, that's pretty freaking great. So I wanted to follow up with Mike. If you can, Max, you can stay for a few more minutes.
I can do that.
Mike, I want to ask you. So you mentioned Westerns. Let's go Westerns for a minute. I don't know, Max, you like Westerns or not, but I am a huge Western buff. I did a little thing. I think it was maybe right before the pandemic. I got sent a review package where it's like, I think it was tied to like the Turner Movie Classics or whatever. And it was like review all these Westerns. So I got to revisit spaghetti Westerns and all the Eastwood, with Unforgiven and Pale Rider and those kinds of things. Where's your list on some of your favorite Westerns now that you drop something like that?
Well, I got to say, my number one is Tombstone.
Great choice. Great choice.
That is an excellent choice.
Yes, I'll be your Huckleberry.
And then number two, it has to be Unforgiven.
Oscar caliber. It really is that good. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, those are great choices. If you ever watch Mags, you watch a lot of Westerns, or do you really not really pay much attention to that genre much?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a Western buff, but I do enjoy the genre. But I grew up in my parents raised me and my older brothers on the old classic movies, and think the movies like John Wayne, Who Shot Liberty Valance with Jimmy Stewart, the
John Ford films, basically. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Sierra Nevada. I think it's Sierra Nevada. Maybe I'm thinking of a different name of the title. Sorry, it's been a long day. My brain is a little fried.
You're fine.
I've been training people at work, so I can't speak right
Castle
now.
State, Once Upon a Time in the West. That's good.
Yeah, that's a good one. But I love all the old Westerns or even what is it? Is it Wagon Train, or I can't name them
the
all.
Comedy with John Candy?
Not Wagon Train. Oh, gosh, what is the
that was Canadian Bacon, maybe then. I'm not sure what I'm thinking of.
I can see the movies and the characters and who they are in my mind right now, but the names escape me, the titles. But I grew up on all of those old classics.
Rifleman, great show.
Oh yeah, that's another good show. But yeah, like John, especially like the like John Wayne movies. I grew up on those. I love those. Another good one that I love is She Wore a Yellow Ribbon. That's another favorite of mine. So I'm not unfamiliar with the genre, but I'm not as knowledgeable as others are, like you and Mike. But
I'm not going to take credit for being knowledgeable, because I'm actually not. I grew up like you, where like all the John Ford, John Wayne movies were a big thing for me. But now that I've gotten older, I really enjoy the dark, gritty, dirty ones more. I enjoy those more than, because John Wayne can't get dirty. He can't get a black eye if he gets into a bar fight. He can't get all cut up. So I enjoy the realism. And I kind of had forgotten. So when I watched, Good, Bad, and the Ugly again, Fistful of Dollars, just seeing Eastwood just get pummeled, and like in the next scenes, he's still pretty messed up. So like, whoa, this was not what I remembered. I enjoy Yeah, I enjoy those more than the John Wayne movies. Definitely in my regular rewatch kind of stuff. So,
Well, it's like movies like The Searchers. I mean, that's
oh,
that's
that's a
a
freaking great film, though.
that,
Yeah,
that's a pretty good one. That was one of the titles that was floating in my head that I had to look
yes.
up, y'all. I will admit I'm not perfect.
Human Cannibal.
My brain is not perfect today. But yeah,
Who
it's
about
it's
Butch
movie.
Cassidy and Sundance? Yes,
It,
it's a fun.
it,
That Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid is a fun movie.
oh
Really
yeah.
is. Outlaw
I
Josie Wales, great film. Yep,
Yep.
Yes, that is a great one.
it's a great film.
Yep.
Mr. Ed and Green Acres, awesome one. Really, we're going to throw those in there. Questions. I'm not sure those quite count for what we're going for, but I appreciate the effort, that kind of thing. So, the last thing I wanted to get to was really because of you, Max. Because if we had time, I was going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit.
Oh
Mike, I
no.
wanted your thoughts too before we go back to Max, because she's been dabbling. She's live streamed. She's been made a couple videos. She's getting her feet wet little by little because obviously, you got a day job trying to juggle and that kind of thing. So I want to ask Mike first, like, Mike, how do you balance? I don't. You can speak to if you have a day job or not. You have to tell us what it is or anything like that. But how do you balance the YouTubing, the time, the editing, the writing, the prep, the work? How do you do it all, man?
Honestly, I just try to see my schedule for the day, depending on when I have to go into work
Mm-hmm.
and when I come home, if I have some time to do it. That's the key thing. You have to try to make the time, even if it's a small window. I try to get a little bit done.
Yeah. I think everybody's different, right? We all have different limitations and issues. I know in the past, anytime I would run into a bump, though, I would let it derail me. And this last week, I had such a rough week, battling through some health things like that. I think if I had looked back at, let's say, 6 months ago or in the middle of the pandemic, I would have probably just not done videos for a few days. A few days becomes a week becomes 10 days, those kinds of things. Whereas now I'm like, nope, I'll figure out a way to do something. And I've just found silly little clips I'll do to fill in some gaps in time. It gives me something to do, trying to stay busy and that kind of thing. But I want to put Mags on the spot a little bit about like, how is it evolving for you, Mags, and kind of like what's next? Because I know you got a lot going on at your day job, and that stuff's got to matter, man. You got to pay the rent, but what's the plan for Mags's YouTube world?
Well, I do remember the name of the movie that I was thinking of. It's
Okay.
the treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen that in a while, but yes.
Yes, I was gonna bother me unless I figured it out. Then it's a slow process because you have to sit down and you have to know where your limits are, and it's finding that particular balance between your work life, your personal life, and this life. And I wouldn't say this, I'm not saying this to brag, but I get people who send me requests to come on live to talk or whatever, and I always feel bad that I can't be on every single invite because of my schedule. And at some point it's like you have to learn to balance also what your needs are as well. And
right,
sleep is important. It seems like the average YouTuber's sleeping schedule is not quite consistent. So
oh yeah, it can be rough. I lead two different lives. Chris, yeah, there's some folks tease me because I live two different lives. I come to the city and do this kind of stuff. I go back to the farm, live a different kind of farm life and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so
worlds.
For me, it's just a matter of, I'm just going to slowly pace myself. I'm not going to try to push myself too much. I know some people keep asking me, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I'm like, hold on. I don't, of course, I'm a newbie at all of this and I got to know my own limits. And so therefore I just take it one step at a time. So
sure. That's awesome. Yeah. Awesome one. Follow-up question though, says, I've seen two kids that were in good jobs quit to do YouTube. Were they already doing YouTube and they got their status and their income up to a certain point and then they could quit and go on? Because that's a different thing than, oh, by the way, I quit and I'm just going to have a fantasy land of making a bunch of money on YouTube. Because those are two completely different responses. They're already doing something, that's one thing, but just to have the thought that you're just going to make a bunch of money doing this, that's just crazy land. So
and to me, if there is a point, and that's, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Pops, but
no, you're
to
fine.
kind of piggyback off of that thought, for me, it's not for the money, although that's, that's very kind of people who want to do that for me specifically, but I'm just doing this for fun, and I'm doing this to entertain people. So as long as people can find enjoyment and entertainment in it, that's all the currency I need.
I agree. Ryan's embracing his machine nickname, which Loki gave him last night. She's talking about how he just cranks out video after video. Yes. Chris Persia, you're right. I don't know when you sleep, bro. You're up early, you're out late, you're doing, I don't even know what's happening with Chris. I don't even know what kind of life that man leads. He's got stuff going on all the time, making me feel like I got more to do. So War Monkey's going back around to a Paul Newman movie. I'm assuming one of the Westerns. There's definitely a few. I know Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid was the one that I think was mentioned before. It's definitely a high recommend for me as well. So yeah, I think everyone's got to kind of find their own thing, find their own way. Yeah, Awesome One says they only had like a couple hundred subs. No, that's nuts. That's nuts. Oh, 200 to 300,000. Okay, well that's different. Because even at the whole 50 cents per 1,000 views or whatever, they have membership money coming in, those kinds of things. It's different once you get to that point. But you also have to know there's probably an expiration date on all of us when it comes to that. I don't mean us, going pushing daisies. I just mean they will fizzle out. Like everything becomes trendy and will fizzle out. Fads come and go. There'll be 100 more YouTubers coming in behind us, and we can't, I think Mags, you're right. I think you have to do it for the love and the passion of doing it, not thinking there's some sort of, cookie that we're all going to get. So, Mike, do you plan, like, how do you sort of like plan what kind of videos you're going to do, or have set live stream schedules, or how do you have your channel structured?
Basically, if I'm gonna do a Cubs recap for my show called The Box Score, I try to find a game that I'm actually able to watch on a certain day by looking at my personal work schedule and also the team schedule, and then try to work the live stream around it. I much rather do the recaps live than do them recorded, but I have been known to record the recaps and upload them later.
Okay. Awesome. That's awesome. Well, folks, I think we'll wrap there. It's been a great time to chat about all sorts of different things, driving all over the map, like what we should do. That's what Pops Talk should be about. Just be us hanging out, talking about some different stuff, catching up on some stories and things like that. You guys, and you've just been awesome. I can't thank Mags enough, Mike enough. Go over there, check out their channel, their videos. Remember to play the algorithm, folks. Like, share, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff. It helps each and every one of us move a video along through the algorithm stuff. And for all of you in chat, man, I'm just so blessed, man. Thank you guys so much for just even hanging out with us so long. It's incredible. Punk Waddles come in here. I didn't get to say hi to Punk Waddles. So thank you, man. Yeah, I just feel blessed, man. You guys I'm just being a nerd like I am every other day, and now I'm just doing it more and more and more on the Pops channel, and it's just been a lot of fun. So, but with that, I want to say goodnight. I want to say, encourage you to make tomorrow better than today, and be true to yourself and your heart. Be blessed, and most importantly, just go out there, talk hard, and if nothing else, just take a moment and chill with Bob.
I mean,
Not the right video. We can't do that one. That's not the right video. What am I doing? I hit the wrong button. I even had the mouse in the right spot, but it didn't. I hit the wrong one.
Ross, all I do is chill. My life is a thrill, for real, Bob Ross. I be too calm for the drama. You don't wanna cause a problem.